Prisoners is a film directed by Denis Villenueve, and it is one of his best films, but that's not saying much because Denis Villenueve has made a lot of great movies in the short time that he's been doing movies in America, I guess. And I looked at my catalog of reviews and I realized I haven't actually reviewed a lot of Denis Villeneuve's other films. I did review Arrival last year, so I'm not going to be touching on that one, but I am going to go back and I am going to look back through his filmography and I'm going to review the movies that I haven't reviewed and I haven't had a chance to give my thoughts on. And the first one up is Prisoners, a movie that came out in 2013. This film stars Hugh Jackman, Terrence Howard, Jake Gyllenhaal, who else? Mario Bella, Viola Davis. I mean, pretty much the cast is just A+ material, and the material that they're given is also A+. I would warn you, there are going to be some spoilers in this review, so if you have not seen Prisoners for some incomprehensible reason, stop this video right now, go watch Prisoners, come back, watch this video, you'll feel happier about it. If you don't give a shit about spoilers and you're gonna see the movie anyway, well, stick around with me. We're gonna have some fun with this thing. I use the term fun loosely because this is not a very fun movie. In fact, this is a very heavy movie emotionally, and it kind of sits on you in your skin, in your bones, in your heart, and it just weighs on you. When I first saw this movie, I was speechless for like 30 minutes after I saw it. It's Thanksgiving, Christmas, one of the two, I can't remember. It's some kind of holiday thing. The families from across the street who are best friends and have known each other for years, they're gonna get together and they're gonna have a fun time. So Terrence Howard and Viola Davis and their family get together with Hugh Jackman and Mario Bella and their family, and everything's good. Everybody's eating, everybody's having a good time. Terrence Howard is drunk and he's doing the trumpet. All of a sudden, the two little girls, the daughters from each of the families, they go missing. They're just gone. They disappeared. Somebody took them. And Jake Gyllenhaal stars in this film as this hotshot detective who slowly becomes unraveled the longer the case goes on, but he's a really good detective and he's the one that is trying his utmost to track these girls down and return them to their families. Right off the bat, emotionally, this movie can hit a chord with almost anybody, especially people that have kids, because this movie takes the idea of if your kids disappeared or if your kids were taken from you, how far would you go? Like, what would you become? It's easy to sit back and look at the actions of some of the people in this movie and be like, oh, well, wow, they went too far. Oh, they're kind of the villain of their own stories. But then think about it. It's like, okay, but if your kids were missing and if you had a chance to get them back, are you trying to tell me that you wouldn't become a monster? Are you trying to tell me that you wouldn't do a few illegal things if it meant returning your daughter or returning your son or returning your kid to yourself? Would you not do any of that shit? I don't know. The movie kind of makes you question that shit. Hugh Jackman, aka Wolverine, was a freaking beast in this movie. This dude got into the Oscars snub a lot of people. Not everybody can win an Oscar. It happens. But Hugh Jackman was brilliant in this movie. I mean, his daughter is kidnapped along with her friend, and you would assume that whoever would kidnap kids and they're doing God knows what to them, they're monsters, they're animals. Why would you kidnap kids? But then you realize that Hugh Jackman becomes a kidnapper. He becomes a monster in order to save his daughter. There's a kid in this movie played by Paul Dano who actually was also really great in this movie, and he's got the intellect of a 10-year-old, so he's kind of just simple-minded and he can't really talk that much, but you feel like there's something there. You feel like maybe he knows a little bit more about those girls' disappearance than he would like you to think. The police can't really do anything with him because, again, he has the intellect of a 10-year-old, and Hugh Jackman, he doesn't just want to sit by and let this guy that he thinks has something to do with his daughter's disappearance go, so he takes matters into his own hands. He kidnaps the dude, and then he beats the ever-living shit out of him for the rest of the movie. I'm serious, the grisly images and the gruesome torture in this movie, I can't really put words to it. You have to see it to believe it. Things get really brutal in this movie. Hugh Jackman does not hold back. He puts that kid through the ringer. That kid definitely had seen better days before he ran into Hugh Jackman in this movie. I mean, seriously, his face just at one point just looks like a punctured basketball. It looks like a tomato with stab wounds in it. At some point, if Hugh Jackman is beating the shit out of me and torturing me, I probably would just break and tell the dude whatever he wanted to hear. I would just make up some bullshit just to make the shit stop. Where is my dollar? I'd be like, well, shit, hey, man, I saw them at McDonald's. The little girl had a McChicken, so they were at least, fiscally responsible. They were eating off the dollar menu. Please don't hit me again. Please, please. McDonald's. Just go look at the local McDonald's. They were there, and then I think I followed them to a Lazy Boy store or something, and please don't hit me again. Jake Gyllenhaal was also really great in this movie. He plays a detective called Loki. No, not that Loki, the other Loki. You know, he's the Loki for this movie. He's not the God of Mischief. Well, to be honest, if the God of Mischief were in this movie, he probably would have just taken the kids as a joke anyways, so Thank God that Logie isn't here. But Jake Gyllenhaal was really, really great in this movie. I mean, he is this great detective. He's very smart. You hear a lot in the movie that he's a detective that nails his cases. He knows how to get the job done. His case goes on and you could just see the pressure of it. He's being squeezed from all different sides. He's being squeezed from his captain. He's being squeezed by the girls' parents and their families. He's being squeezed by the media attention that is being paid attention to the case. And then he's being squeezed by the facts of the case themselves and trying to scramble around and find these different clues. The dude starts mentally losing it. He becomes more unglued as the film goes on. He also has this really great twitch that he always does in this movie where he blinks a lot. And at first I couldn't tell why he was doing that, but then I heard that Jake Gyllenhaal said, like in an interview or something, that he had Tourette's, and I was kind of like, oh, well, that's actually pretty cool. That's awesome. One of the best scenes in the movie is when that great score by Johan Johansson, or Johan Johansson, or let's just call him JJ for this review. One of the best scenes in the movie is when his score is playing over Jake Gyllenhaal's rush the girl to the hospital scene at the very end of the movie, because long story short, Jake Gyllenhaal does eventually find out where one of the girls is, and he saves her, but he gets shot, and so he's bleeding into his eye, and he has to try to drive her to the hospital. She's dying. She's been drugged and given like a fatal dose of venom or something, and it's one of the best scenes I think that I've seen in the last 5 to 10 years. It's just a really, really great scene. All the other acting in this movie was really great. Terrence Howard was great. He finds out about Hugh Jackman torturing the shit out of this kid for information about his daughters, and at first he really wants to stop it, but then it's kind of like, again, he's a parent and he wants his girl back too, so it's like, all right, I'll help you, Hugh Jackman, sure. After all, you're Wolverine, and I used to be Rhodey, so we all know that Rhodey would bow to Wolverine in that scenario. Also, Viola Davis, aka Amanda Waller, is in this movie. She plays Terrence Howard's wife, and she, again, is kind of like, at one point she even says to Terrence Howard, she's like, look, we're not going to help him, but we're not going to stop him. Let him do what he needs to do. Let's just stay away from it. We can't stop him because he might actually get somewhere with this. He could be beating and torturing an innocent boy, and everybody knows that that's crossing a huge line, but again, if your kids were in danger like that, what would you do? And what I love about Denis Villenueve and his style of directing is he's able to take simple premises, like this is a simple premise, like, oh, the kids get kidnapped in broad daylight, we gotta find them. That's a simple premise. But he's able to add so many layers and themes and complexity to a simple premise and execute it and film it in a way that makes it stand out as one of the best movies. He's able to do that in pretty much every film that he's made. Prisoners was no exception. There's really not too much to complain about in this movie. Ultimately, the girls were kidnapped due to some kind of religious war. There's some nut job, some woman who, her and her husband, they lost their kid to cancer, I guess, and so they started kidnapping kids and killing them with snake venom, I guess, as revenge against God or for kids or some shit. It makes more sense in the movie than the way that I'm explaining it to you right now. This all leads to a really great finale where Hugh Jackman has to confront her after he figures out where his daughter is. Jake Gyllenhaal shows up. It all leads to a very satisfying conclusion and a very ambiguous ending. I like the fact that they left it ambiguous like that. It was kind of the perfect way to end it off, just to leave the rest of the film to your imagination, because this is a film that, again, despite its simple premise, has a lot of imagination to it. Everyone was great in this movie. The music was amazing. I love the score for this thing. Good job, JJ. Like if Joel from The Last of Us lost Ellie, yeah, that's pretty much what Wolverine would be like in this movie. Don't give a fuck. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my daughter. This is one of the best films that Denis Villeneuve has ever made in his short time that he's been making films, because it deserves it. Superman Prime for Prisoners, all the way. Just let me know what you guys think about it down below. Subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.